Rewind-A-Dynamite from the post-wrestling site. AEW, lighting up the fuse. Sit back and enjoy the bubbly as we hear from Jon and Wai Ting. Where we're going, we don't need roads. And if the buck stops here, this thing might blow. Everything you hear are opinions of the show. And if you don't like it, go to the forums and let them know.
It is Rewind-A-Dynamite. The show you clicked on is the show that you are getting. One day, you're going to click on this show, and we're just going to review Raw. But tonight, we are chatting about AEW Dynamite. I am John Pollock, and you'll never guess who's joining me. It's Wai Ting. How are you, Wai?
I'm back. I made it.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh, we're worried.
What a novel. What a treat. A podcast with me and you.
Maybe that's what we should do, is just post the show and say, it's a show. No description, and people are just going to find out what it is. Like, maybe I'll be on it, maybe I won't, maybe you will, maybe not.
Maybe
we're going to review the show you think we are, maybe not.
Maybe it won't even be a podcast. Maybe it'll be like, nice classical music for like an hour and a half.
Or you just hear Raw in the background for 3 hours on with our microphone running for the whole show.
Like if we butt dialed somebody who was watching Raw.
Yeah, my dad had a real problem with that. He would consistently, like I'm talking once a month, would dial, and I began to just, every time my dad would call, just let it go to voicemail, and without fail, a 5-minute voicemail would then appear where it's just him, like he had just dialed, and it maxes out at 5 minutes. This happened nonstop to the point that we had to take numbers out of my dad's phone. Like it was just, it happened to me and my sister so many times.
Was this before or after smartphones?
This was a couple of years ago. So it was smartphone era. But he did not have a smartphone. He has one of those flip phones still.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He has not migrated to the smartphones. I don't think him and smartphones would get along.
It's a bit of a jump.
It is.
He's probably better off. So he's not on Instagram. He's not on all this stuff.
No, he is not.
Not listening to podcasts.
Instagram.
My dad is on Instagram.
My dad, his introduction to the internet was when we first got the internet, and his first time, we set him up an email address. So we put the screen to compose an email. So he started talking to the computer to like that the computer would pick up his voice and it's no, you've got to type all this out, Dad. Oh, I feel bad.
He's way ahead of time. I think we're still probably
listen, for the late 90s. Come on. I mean, I'm going to be in that spot one day when I've got to compose my thoughts telepathically, and I'm going to sound like an idiot when I try to type something out. No one types anymore. You just think your thought and it composes in front of you. That's going to happen, and we're going to just feel like old farts. So
well, your dad's a futurist, then. I'm sure in 5 years' time the technology will keep up with will catch up to what he's envisioned.
That's the goal. Yes. Well, do you notice there was snow today? Did you catch any of that?
A little bit, yeah. Not
came out of nowhere. It was a very, very warm day out, and then all of a sudden it's snowing. I was walking home, it's snowing.
Well, this is the best type of snow, the type that'll just melt
come
itself.
And go. Yeah, it's not too bad, but it's already March. Does it feel like March to you? We're 2 months into the year.
Oh, we're 5 days away from your birthday.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's coming up.
How does that feel?
That means we're close to your birthday. We're 10 days away from your birthday.
Well, that is true, but I mean, your birthday is coming up on Raw. What a way to celebrate your birthday!
I was hoping to just completely go without mentioning my birthday this year, but Wai has ruined that plan.
Oh, people already know. Come on, by now. So what?
No.
I mean, besides Raw, what anything else planned for the day?
Oh, plenty, Wai. I'm gonna have a wild party Monday night, watching Raw for 3 hours, and then I'll be. You know what? I'm going to literally be turning my new age with you here in my basement Sunday night after Elimination Chamber.
That is true. It'll be a 2-night celebration.
Oh my God!
The Elimination Chamber.
I'm gonna be spending my birthday with you. That's my plan.
Well, and perhaps with the afterglow of a great pay-per-view.
Yeah. I mean, this is a big one.
But not just me, like with all the listeners that'll be hopefully tuning into us live. So if you're a Double Plus patrons, get in on the celebration. It's John Pollock's birthday, Sunday night.
God, the birthday celebration. I was hoping for the furthest thing from this. So anyway, Sunday night we will be reviewing Elimination Chamber. But if I had to make a birthday list, what would be at the top of that list? It would be an item from the Post Wrestling store, because any day can be your birthday if you happen to win an item from store.postwrestling.com. And if you're a member of the Post Wrestling Cafe, well, maybe now is going to become your birthday, because we have a giant list of potential winners. And Wai, are we ready to draw the name and find out whose birthday it is?
I'm ready.
All right. We are going down. We are isolating it. It is Pisces only. We are searching. And this winner goes by the name.
Congratulations to Abdel Fai. Abdel Fai from, I believe this is Great Britain. Chelmsford. The first time I've ever had to say that name. Chelmsford, something like that.
It sounds like a fraternity, like a college fraternity.
Chelmsford. Okay, sure. It sounds certainly.
I meant his name.
Class. Oh, Abdel. It does.
I'm part of Abdel Fai. Oh, you were Abdel Fai? What year? 78. 78.
Wow.
The glory years.
Yeah, it was great times at Abdel Fai.
Yeah.
Anyway, so congratulations to you, Abdel. You win something from the Post Wrestling store. I'll be sending you a message very shortly.
All right. Just looking at some of the stuff we have up on the site, Wai and I just completed a review of PWG 11, which comes with a bonus review of the High Spots Wrestling Network, courtesy of Wai Ting, a very detailed breakdown of this streaming service that you can check out if you are a member of the Post Wrestling Cafe. That show is up that you can download now. So after you hear Wai and I speak for however long we're going to tonight, you know what? Make it an all-nighter and just go right into PWG 11, featuring Kevin Steen's farewell to the independent world at large, Chris Hero challenging Kyle O'Reilly for the PWG title, and a guerrilla warfare match with Joey Ryan and Candice LeRae challenging the Young Bucks for the PWG tag titles in the sweatbox that is the American Legion Post number 308.
Quite the roster on this show, and it was a lot of fun talking about it with you and our executive producer, Tyler Crane. And as we mentioned on that particular show, if you sign up right now to the Cafe, which is our Patreon, you get, coming up next week, our review of Infinity War that John has actually caught up with. He's seen Thor Ragnarok. He's seen Black Panther. So we'll have a mini review of both of those movies from you, John, I'm sure. As well, we'll be joined by Brent Chittenden, the one of the most knowledgeable people I know about comic books and comic book films. So he'll be joining us. We got the big wigs for this one. It's something we've been building up to for years now. So join us as we talk about Infinity War.
Yes, and for those that maybe are paying attention, the busiest place in downtown Toronto is the post office. We've got Brent coming in next Tuesday. Today, our good pal Cody Saftik made his long-awaited return as we did a big discussion on all things mixed martial arts, including the UFC 248 card. And on Thursday, we have a special in-studio guest on the Cafe Hangout. 3 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to be going live, and joining us here at the post office will be executive producer of Dark Side of the Ring, Evan Husney, who is going to be chatting with us about the upcoming second season that's going to be airing on Vice TV coming up later this month. So we'll chat about the success of the first season, the episodes selected for season 2, and lots of interesting subjects to tackle with Evan. And we can also take some of your phone calls if you want to call in as well.
Sounds great.
So tune into that. You can listen live every Thursday at 3 Eastern if you are a member of the Post Wrestling Cafe. And then, as we mentioned, the Elimination Chamber post show Sunday night for Double Plus patrons. So look forward to all of that, slash the birthday bash, I guess, on Sunday night. News items to get into, Wai. The WWE has like many sports and entertainment outlets, have had to address their plans moving forward with the threat of the coronavirus outbreak, and they issued a statement to ESPN to provide an update when it comes to WrestleMania. And the following statement was given, quote, "The health and safety of our fans, performers, and employees are our top priorities, and we are monitoring the situation closely with our partners and government officials in Tampa Bay. We remain committed to hosting WrestleMania at Raymond James Stadium on Sunday, April 5th, and like other entertainment properties in the U.S., there are currently no plans to cancel or postpone our upcoming events." So, not a surprising statement given where we are, but certainly one that, who's to say what could change in 5 weeks? But it's definitely, if you are planning to attend WrestleMania and all of these events, I mean, it's certainly there's always the potential that something could get pulled.
Absolutely. It's obviously something that's been, on the top of mind for pretty much everybody in the world right now. And especially for those of you, for anybody planning to travel to any sort of like large congregation. So I think it is a great time to remind ourselves and everybody else to just, practice great hygiene, perfect hygiene, and to stay at home if you're sick, and to, wash your hands for at least 20 seconds and all of these things like that. I hope, things don't get any worse. I mean, it might even be inevitable, but at the very least, I hope it's manageable, and I hope we all continue to, enjoy the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's something like, everyone has to be on alert here. And I think that it's only responsible that all of these companies are, assessing this on a day-by-day basis, because things can change, whether it be for the better or not. I mean, it's something that it's very much a giant concern right now, and that goes without saying. By the way, did you hear what New Japan World, they are coming up with replacement programming on the service in light of their shows being canceled. And did you see that Taichi hosted the anniversary card that was played out on Fire Pro Wrestling on New Japan World?
Well, I saw that this had happened. I have not seen the actual stream yet, but it's something that feels like it was tailor-made for us.
Well, was literally suggested by us in a joking manner, and they ended up doing it.
Well, you know what? Great minds think alike.
I'm taking 100,000% credit for this idea.
You didn't think it was going to be Taichi doing it, though.
I mean, if you had to think, he would probably be up there. I would have personally picked Minoru Suzuki, but Taichi is fine. Raw ratings.
There's also a great Okada documentary that's out there that I've just started to watch. And that's subtitled in English. So yeah, it's a great chance, I guess, to see what extra non-in-ring programming that New Japan World has to offer. So I believe they've got a big interview with Hiromu and Naito that might or might not already be out. So I'm kind of looking forward to all of that, whatever is subtitled in English at least.
So Raw on Monday night, they were up 2%, small increase, 2,257,000 viewers. They were number one for the night on cable, and they saw a lot of increases in their demographics throughout the night. And it's kind of this 2.2 million range, sort of that's where they were last week. I thought they'd get a little bit of a bump this week. There wasn't a whole lot of competition they were facing. And they had promoted quite a bit for this week's show, but it seems that 2.2 million is kind of where they're at right now.
Yeah. Did you think that coming off a Super Showdown, or was it just like, what was it in particular?
I don't know. It was like they didn't really get much of an increase at all. I mean, certain segments of their demographics were up from the prior week, but like 2 weeks ago, they were doing over 2.4 million. And I just thought with all the buildup, with like the latest progression of with Beth Phoenix showing up, you were coming off of that pay-per-view. That SmackDown certainly got a big bump the day after with John Cena, but it doesn't seem like Raw really benefited too much from it. But one of the things to watch, though, is that we are seeing in a few instances where in the third hour, adults 18 to 34 and women 12 to 34, they were up in the third hour from the first hour. And that's the second straight week where we've seen that. And that virtually never happens. It's always, the third hour is always the lowest, and the demographics always drop in the third hour. So that's 2 weeks in a row that, I mean, it's not cause for celebration, but it's a small sign of people that it's actually growing certain audiences for the third hour.
Yeah. I mean, it helps that I think they've saved, pre-announced big segments for the final portions of the show.
And it's also the second straight week that they put Shayna Baszler in the third hour, and also had the big Orton angle at the end of the show as well. Last week they closed with Orton and Kevin Owens. So it seemed that the combination of the Orton Edge storyline and Shayna Baszler and Becky Lynch's story being in the third hour, I mean, those would be the reasons. That's the pattern we've seen 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, interesting to see if they keep it up.
Just a quick thing on XFL numbers from the weekend. ABC's game was down 18.5%. Fox was down 12%. And FS1, though, compared to last week, they were actually up 11% in viewers. So with FS1, this is the first week that any network has shown a gain from the prior week. And then the other cable game was on ESPN2 as compared to ESPN the prior week. And that one was down 30% on ESPN2. So, I mean, at least with FS1, I think they'd be, pretty happy at this point that they're doing 1 million viewers for this game. For this week, actually, they were over 1.1 million. So still seeing numbers dropping on the major networks, but at least on FS1, they showed actually an increase. So I'm just waiting for the week where things kind of level off and we're just seeing either small decreases or even in some instances, maybe a small increase somewhere. But we are still seeing on the major networks, like, as the weeks go on, I think the interest is waning down till they find their core base that are watching this.
How long is the season?
I mean, they go till the end of April. So we've got like 2 months of games left.
I wonder if that'll pick up like by the time they really kind of get down to the end of it, or if it takes some top star. He hate me.
Yeah, or just some kind of like news story that would center on a team or a player, something that would get attention. I'd be curious how many what is the amount of coverage that they're getting in like bars on a Saturday or Sunday? Is the XFL considered something that a bar is going to throw on just because it's football, it's a Saturday, or is it something that is actually going to attract business that way? I'm just kind of I don't know.
Think there are people making plans to go to a bar on Sunday to watch the XFL?
Well, I'd be really curious in some of these markets. Like, what is the fan base like in any of these 8 cities? Like, does it at least have a bit of a cult following? Is there any kind of attachment to the home teams in any of these markets beyond just like a small, like here in Toronto, for instance, like there's a big gap between the following that Toronto FC is going to get versus, the rugby team.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, but if you're talking the XFL, I mean, it's a relationship that is, I think, still very much forming for a lot of people. So I really do wonder. Yeah, I'm really not the person to be able to comment on that.
Are you saying we're not going to go to a Tampa Bay game when we're down there?
Probably not. No.
It might work out if they have a home game that weekend. I mean, what an opportunity. Who would not want a podcast of us going to an XFL game?
Me.
The answer is way. Let's chat a bit about Matt Hardy. So we didn't discuss this on Monday, but Being the Elite had a scene at the end where they get a mysterious phone call from a 910 area code, North Carolina, and they answer the call from someone they have not heard from in a minute. And Matt tells Nick that can't go home yet. We got to make a sudden trip. And
this started also on the previous edition of Free the Delete, which is Matt Hardy's YouTube series that he's been doing in recent months, where his prior episode ended with him making a phone call.
And so it looks like we're just going to be going back and forth, because on today's Free the Delete, we had the Bucks showing up to meet with Matt, and it ended on that cliffhanger. And that certainly got a lot of buzz today.
Yeah, I think, pretty strategic to release it on a Wednesday. I think his excuse I believe he usually releases on a Monday, and his excuse was that it's like, it was in respect of, I'm sorry, like it was something that I had no idea what he was talking about. Like
he has to get the zenith out of his body,
something like that. It was like in respect of the zenith or something like that. So he decided to delay it till Wednesday. I don't know. It might have been a legit reason. I have no idea what he was talking about, but the timing worked out. Obviously, with a lot of attention on Wednesday nights for AEW.
Yeah, and maybe we'll get Matt Hardy's new quest, Delete the Elite.
Yeah. So, obvious. I mean, okay. Does this pretty much spell it out for you, John, that he's going to be in AEW?
I think it goes without saying at this point that he has to have something going on with AEW. I think it only makes sense at this point if they're actually going to the extent of shooting stuff. I mean, to me, it's why tease this if there's not a greater plan in place.
Does it take,
that I would imagine has probably been locked in, that they have had this idea.
Does it take the edge off of whatever's going on with the Dark Order? Because right now it seems like the story is positioning the Bucks as like Matt's saviors, rather than him being the exalted one there to take over AEW.
Well, if it's one thing that this company has shown a obsession with, it is groups that are just shrouded in darkness, because we've got the Dark Order reveal with the Exalted One, and now we've got Jake Roberts saying that the dark side is coming to AEW.
I mean, I wonder if that was all intentional, like to make you think that it might have something to do with all that other stuff that's going on. But it could be more dark factions, sure.
Oh my lord, there's a lot of darkness going on in AEW. But yeah, it's I'm sure that they've got some grand plan with Matt Hardy, but it almost seems like it's to be the Exalted One. We'll see where it goes. I think it's got people thinking, and that's the goal of this. Different ideas of what ways they can go about all of this. I guarantee you it's not going to be a giant mechanical spider.
Don't know that.
I'm pretty sure that will be not in the cards. JBL has been added to the Hall of Fame class. They announced this on WWE Backstage on Tuesday night. So, I mean, it would make sense that you have Ron Simmons induct him after you had JBL induct Simmons.
I can't imagine it being anyone else.
No, that would seem like the logical one as well. ROH has announced the latest participant for their Pure Title tournament, Yuji Nagata.
Great get.
Awesome. Think of like the matches he could have here. You have Doug Williams, Jonathan Gresham, Alex Shelley, Rocky Romero, Mark Haskins, and Slex. I mean, you get Nagata and Gresham.
Could be, or he could just, get knocked out of the first round.
Well, what they're doing is they are doing 2 nights back to back to start the tournament off. I don't know how the brackets are all going to work out, but that would suggest, like, I would definitely imagine he's doing both those shows on the April 10th and April 11th.
Right.
But
okay.
That's a cool use. Like, this, it's clear, like, the New Japan ROH relationship is in a much better state. And Yuji Nagata is a great idea of someone that, I mean, he's not figured into any gigantic plans in New Japan, and ROH, great use of him, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's a good get, because I don't think it's somebody who necessarily overshadows any of the talent in Ring of Honor the way that, like if you had a Zack Sabre Jr. enter that tournament, he would. And New Japan's not doing anything with him, so I think it's a great match.
And the last thing here is NWA Power. They announced on Tuesday's episode what they have coming up over the next few weeks. So next week, they're going to run episodes 2 and 3 of The Circle Squared. Then in 2 weeks' time, they're doing a special called Superpower. and that's going to feature Nick Aldis and Thomas Latimer against Marty Scurll and Brody King, the Rock and Roll Express against Aaron Stevens and the Question Mark, Tim Storm against Jax Dane, and Camille making her in-ring debut. And then after that episode, they're going to be filling weeks with something called Power Surge. They're going to be doing a Crockett Cup selection show and bringing back 10 pounds of gold that will take them into the pay-per-view on April 19th, which is the Crockett Cup show. And I don't even know if you and I talked about this, but what did you think about the Crockett Cup? They're going head-to-head with Impact's Rebellion pay-per-view on that Sunday night. Good move, bad move?
I didn't realize that. Good move or bad move? Or
are the audiences so small that it's each side are going to have their dedicated followers? Like, do you see do you see it splitting the audience at all?
I mean, potentially. I would imagine if you're somebody who is very, all of this takes place on a Tuesday, doesn't it? So if you're part of your routine is to watch Impact, maybe you don't watch Power, or maybe you watch both Impact and Power. And
this is the Sunday night pay-per-views.
Right, yeah, I know, but on Tuesdays they both.
Oh, I'm saying right. Their TV is the same night. Gotcha.
Yeah, so this is the Tuesday Night Wars transferring to the Sunday Night Wars. To be quite honest, it's like at this point I think it's such a small battle that maybe it could only help to have a relative even level of buzz. I would say for both. I'm more of a fan of NWA Power, so I think I'll be paying more attention to that one, but. As part of the news cycle, I could see, big things happening on both shows, making its way to sort of like the Twitterverse. Certainly, it's a much more even matchup than, Ring of Honor doing their title switch on the same night as AEW Revolution, because I've heard very little people talk about Roosh being the new ROH champion, with that being buried, with Moxley winning the belt.
It was certainly overshadowed. I will say this, on Sunday night, I sat down and I had ROH on my DVR, and I just sat down just to kind of catch up a bit on ROH and their episode. It was 2 matches from the recent Free Enterprise card they did in Baltimore. So it was Alex Zane against Andrew Everett, and then the main event they had the Briscoes against Bandito and Flamita. And I ended up just sitting down and watching the entire episode, and it was a great show. 2 phenomenal matches, and to build up their past versus present show, they aired in highlight form the August 2002 match between Mark and Jay Briscoe when Mark was making his debut with ROH, and it was great. This is a 16-minute match that they condensed into 2, but it was, you're just taking matches from your live events, presenting them in full, and it's very much just throwing out your best stuff. I found it to be a really enjoyable 1-hour show.
Cool. Sounds good. When is that past present show?
It's the night after their pay-per-view. So the pay-per-view is next Friday, the 13th, and past versus present is the Saturday night on Honor Club.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I think that weekend it'll be, I'm curious to see what kind of feedback we get that weekend from Ring of Honor, because I think they've built up a certain level of buzz, and hopefully some people will use that weekend to kind of check back in with Ring of Honor, who made some interesting moves to try and gain some attention for themselves.
Well, personally, I have a lot more interest in the past present show than whatever show that they're doing on the 13th. Which one are they pushing harder, or is it just both at the same time?
I mean, they're promoting both. They're promoting both in that, Honor Club gets you both shows. Honor Club, you have to do the big VIP thing to get the pay-per-view, but they are pushing them together.
Okay.
I am looking forward to, we're going to the Super Card of Honor show, and I think that's going to be a very good show.
What have they announced so far?
We can pull it up here. Well, they have Flip Gordon, who is going to be challenging Roosh or Mark Haskins. So I think most are expecting Roosh to leave the pay-per-view with that. And then they've announced Nick Aldis has been announced for the show. They've got Marty Scurll against Jay White, Jeff Cobb and Dan Moff against Kenta and Taiji Ishimori. And they announced, wasn't it the 6-man that they announced as well, with Ospreay involved?
Yeah, Will Ospreay, Amazing Red, and Rocky Romero taking on Bandito, Flamita, and Ray Horace.
Yeah, that's going to be outstanding.
That looks great.
So, all right, well, let's head into AEW Dynamite. Is there anything else you want to mention before we go to the show?
Don't think so. Everything is up on the website, postwrestling.com. Thank you, Andrew Thompson, for taking care of the update today. So, yeah, check all that out there.
And his interview with Slex.
Yes.
As well,
yes, that's right.
Of Ring of Honor. Andrew Thompson showcasing his interview flex. Let's move on. And no Beth Phoenix on NXT tonight.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. Yes. I mean, obviously not good that in storyline a woman is injured, but I mean, good that they didn't have her on. Awesome.
Dynamite from Broomfield, Colorado at the First Bank Center. They recapped Revolution, and then Justin Roberts introduced the new AEW champion. Had to have gone a solid 20 seconds to get out John. Moxley comes out, stitches on his forehead. The crowd is chanting, "You deserve it." And Moxley cuts a complete babyface promo that the letters AEW represent professional wrestling. Not literally. The sport he loves and dedicated his life to. It never belonged to Chris Jericho, nor does the belt belong to him. It belongs to the people. And we brought pro wrestling back. He will defend this title with his life. No man in this industry can pry it out of his cold, dead hands. Come at me, Charlton Heston. And he knows it isn't over with the Inner Circle, and he dares them to come after him. So the Inner Circle comes out, and they come out, and they're not walking down to the ring. So Jericho just waits and waits and waits for the chorus to play, and then the song to end for all the people to sing along.
It's gotten to the point now where like everybody's singing it. You know, like when it first started, it was maybe the boat. It was over huge, and then maybe like it took a while for it to catch on to the arenas completely. But that's not the case anymore. Everybody is at least singing the chorus. It's his own Casa di Nare.
I would love for him to come out one week and he just like cuts it, and the people can't get into the song, and they just boo him.
There could be building up for that, sure.
He says he does not need a belt to be Le Champion, and the crowd chants, "Yes, you do." He says the Moxley era has begun, but he thinks the Moxley era sucks ass. So the crowd chants, "You suck ass." Censors were okay with this.
Maybe
this one was okay.
Yeah, I mean, I did not notice a censorship problem at all on this episode, at least on TSN.
There was one instance later.
Oh.
He rags on Broomfield, calls Moxley a cheater. This was the greatest logic of all time. He's a cheater because I trained for 3 months for a man with one eye, and you did not disclose the fact that your eye had healed, and that is not the act of a champion. I thought that convoluted explanation, I thought it was so funny. He calls Moxley a snake oil salesman, and the Inner Circle are now a hit squad and are putting the AEW roster on notice. And this is where we got a chant of bullshit, and the censors were on that one.
Okay.
He doesn't care if it's the Librarian, Michael Nakazawa, or Jon Moxley. They will start with Moxley and guarantees that Moxley is not going to walk out of this building under his own power. And if he does, Jericho will take a 60-day leave of absence. And Moxley says he's going to send him packing tonight and make him look like a stupid son of a bitch.
When he said the 60-day absence, I think the entire audience knew what was up. They knew that this meant Jericho was going to be leaving AEW for 60 days, and they started chanting, "Fozzy sucks."
It was great because they just today announced a bunch more dates for the summer, which, the way they laid this out, I thought it was really clever because I think it just felt like, okay, this is how they're going to write off Jericho, and they were very smart about it to just use this as like an actually effective swerve.
Yes, it did end up being a swerve.
Like it was totally believable.
Yep.
I would say most people assumed like this would be the write-off of Jericho.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought Moxley sounded great here. This was like the big kind of babyface rallying promo from a guy who feels like he's assuming that figurative leadership of a company. It was probably the type of promo that I think we all expected maybe at the end of the match when he tried to talk and didn't necessarily improvise,
Oh, fuck! What the fuck?
did not through improvisation get something of this level, but he made up for it on this show.
Interesting, the start, because I watched the beginning of NXT. NXT kicked off with one of the cage matches, and it was a 16-minute cage match started NXT, and AEW started the total opposite with pretty much a 20-minute talking segment.
Interesting. Okay. Which cage match started?
They started with Tegan Nox and Dakota Kai.
Right. Of course.
And went lengthy.
Okay.
SCU and Colt Cabana. Colt Cabana making his Dynamite debut, taking on Dark Order with Alex Reynolds and John Silver. And Excalibur mentioned all the theories people have of who the Exalted One was. And there's even a theory that he is the Exalted One, but said they don't pay me enough.
Yeah. Well, he does wear a mask.
I guess there's an exalted budget as well for this person. They jump Cabana and knock SCU to the floor, and then SCU comes back. They do the same, and Dark Order gets knocked down, and they attack John Silver. They got the advantage on Daniels, went through the commercial break. Hot tag is made to Frankie Kazarian, and as the Dark Order gets sent to the floor, Evil Uno is left in there alone and gets swarmed by SCU. Evil Uno stops a bionic elbow from Colt Cabana with an eye poke. Scorpio Sky hit a Tope Con Hero, and then Colt Cabana was left with Alex Reynolds, hit the Chicago skyline and Superman pin for the cover. And also very visible was Colt Cabana here with his shoulder getting the cup therapy.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I mean, it's
pretty noticeable. He's dealing with something with his shoulder.
Or it could just be for like relaxation, you know.
Is it relaxing to get that done? Or would you only do it if there was a problem?
I think you would do it just, I mean, it's basically kind of like a massage. It's not necessarily something that, at least as far as I know, that you would have to do. You can do it because something's bothering you, but you can also just do it because something is mildly bothering you, or you just maybe want to like, what am I, like a spokesperson for cup therapy?
You are the one with the experience, so I rely on you for the advice here on the cup therapy.
Well, you don't have to have an injury in order to get it, but I mean, obviously, perhaps if he's targeting that specific spot, maybe it's bothering him. But you can't really, say how severe it is. He was wrestling here, so it seemed fine. I thought this was a good 8-man tag and a very good showcase for a new talent here in Colt Cabana, who the crowd automatically loves. And seems like this is kind of like where he's going to be placed for now, as SCU's buddy.
Evil Uno cut a promo and said that heads will roll when the Exalted One arrives, and revealed the gender when he arrives.
Revealed the gender? Oh.
Well, no, the Exalted One could have been a she, but we got it confirmed here. It's a he.
Oh, got it. Okay. Yes. They've always referred to the Exalted One as he. Haven't they?
I've always just heard the Exalted One. Maybe they may have.
Okay.
They aired I thought a really well done video package putting over the tag match from Sunday, which is something that so often so many companies, you have this blowaway match on the pay-per-view and you don't make a big enough deal about it. Mm-hmm. They included quotes from Wade Keller, Justin Barrasso, and Dave Meltzer putting over the tag match. And yeah. I thought this was like a really well done deal, because I always feel that if you didn't order the pay-per-view, that next show, the feeling I want to give is, man, you really missed something, and you feel left out that you missed it. I want to put guilt on people that didn't buy my show.
And if you did order it, it makes you feel like you really got your money's worth.
I saw something historic.
Yeah, and all the talk, I think, earlier before the pay-per-view about whether or not $50 is too much, I'm sure there's still some people that feel like, if they paid $50 it was too much, but I would also be willing to bet that most who did pay for it feel like they got their money's worth, because, the way they were framing it here, it felt like this was something historical. This was something that Dave Meltzer, JR here, Excalibur were calling the best tag team match of all time.
Excalibur said it's the best Young Bucks match he has ever seen, which covers an enormous amount of ground.
Yeah. So, obviously, I think having not just the journalists, but your announcers who have a great deal of credibility. And I say that more from JR's perspective, because I guess Tony calling it the best tag team match I've ever seen.
It was the greatest night in our great sports history.
Might not mean as much, but it does sound cool, and it's a celebration of like something that you produced under your own brand that's critically acclaimed.
I was waiting for the quotation. I went and rewatched this. Waiting. or the Cody package.
I heated up my Thai leftovers, my cashew nut chicken, and rewatched this match.
The Cody video package would have been, quote, you know this guy's a heel, Damian Abraham. Britt Baker is on commentary. I love watching her with Tony Schiavone. I think it's very fun. She got him a skinny vanilla no whip with the word TONI written on it. That she made very clear to show the camera so that they got it. No zoom in, though.
Did they just reuse the same cup every week, you think?
Well, the last one wasn't, Tony was spelt with like an EY, I think. Oh. I don't know how many different ways they're going to be able to spell Tony outside of these two, but I don't know how long this gag can run. I guess Tone E with E's at the end.
Lots of ways.
Tone.
Yeah.
I guess big tone is taken, little tone, mid tone. So she's on commentary for this women's match coming up next with Big Swole and Leva Bates. And like the big point of this match was the librarian offering her a book. Big Swole threw the book away, and that opened Excalibur to segue into a plug for the Young Bucks and Jim Ross, both releasing books this year. And then Big Swole won with Dirty Dancing in 1 minute and 21 seconds.
Yes.
Confirmed all this happened?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you're exactly right. 2 books coming out. Yep. It was a very quick match, and I thought what stood out to me the most was Britt Baker on commentary, who didn't even say a whole lot, but she, I think in not saying a whole lot, just immediately just comes across like just such a jerk, such a holier-than-thou type of, heel. I really just saw this, though, as like a week 1 build for Big Swole, who they seem to be kind of putting a bit more focus on. It was an appropriate length, and I think if you're watching it, it automatically kind of draws the association between Swole and Baker for a future program.
You know what I'm waiting for? The big spot? Leva Bates, when she finally gets a pinfall victory.
What's that?
She wins with the cover.
Huh.
Cody comes out for the next segment. Huge reaction. And he gets into the ring. He was also joined by the neck tattoo. He explains the goal of getting on a pay-per-view is for a payoff. The winner's share of the purse, as Jim Ross would so eloquently describe it. And said that he can only be comfortable about this loss to MJF if MJF comes out, looks him in the eye, and tells Cody he beat him fair and square. But it's not MJF's music that plays. Out comes Jake the Snake Roberts. And this crowd is stunned to be seeing Jake here. He comes out. He is as romantically tied to the rope and turnbuckle that you could possibly imagine a wrestler conveying.
He came out and kissed the turnbuckle.
He was just like rubbing the rope, kissing the turnbuckle.
Well, I imagine this probably meant a lot to him, and I'm sure like being able to perform on a national TV stage in his real voice. I wonder if he, I wonder what it like, how much more it meant to him that wasn't necessarily conveyed on screen here.
He tells Cody to stop crying like a bitch. Cody got his ass kicked and got it handed to him and says, I'm not here to praise you. I'm here to slay you. Jake reveals he has a client and the dark side is coming to AEW. It took him 20 years to get clean and get right, and he's earned it. He explains that for years he put a snake into the corner so that people would pay attention to the snake and he'd have them in the palm of his hand, right where he wanted them. And his client is going to whip him and Cody can bring his one-trick pony, Arn Anderson. He continually referred to Cody as Caesar and said, "I'm not here to take the whole pie, just your share." And he said at the end, this great closing line, they say never turn your back on someone you respect or you're afraid of, as he flips the mic up and turns his back to Cody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I certainly did not expect Jake to be on the show, much less as a heel manager threatening to take Cody out with a new client. That was a little bit out of nowhere, because I think when you see a legend typically, especially when it's with Cody, and I think you know the association with he and DDP, you would expect Jake to be, on maybe another mentor, I would say, to Cody and his, I don't know, whatever journey to deal with this loss. But he's coming out here as a heel opposing Cody. And I think it took maybe a brief second of adjustment for the entire audience to realize that. But then afterwards, like, everybody was just so transfixed on like a performance from Jake the Snake Roberts, and he sounded great. It sounded like a high level, maybe not necessarily Jake at his best, but like, I mean, if you compare it to like the promos of today, he certainly like felt still miles above plenty of other people. So
he's very captivating as a speaker.
So great, like great quotables, great lines. It was a really good surprise for TV. It sets another mystery in motion. I do wonder, like, if the wording of the word dark is done intentionally to make you wonder if it's all tied together. Who knows? And it's also the beginning of Cody's next story.
Yeah, a lot here. I mean, Cody had no response here, and you could do Cody next week responding to Jake, but man, is there a part of me that wants to see Jake get confronted by Arn Anderson in the ring, and Arn because Arn hasn't gotten to do a big promo yet, and this to me would be that line in there. I think that would be a great chance to get Arn in there as well.
Seems like it'll happen. Who do you think it'll be? Luke Harper?
I don't know. Well, we got nothing on Lance Archer tonight.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Plans change.
I don't know if that's a potential. Like maybe because last week they had promoted the fact that there would be more on Lance Archer this week. If I'm not mistaken, they actually said he'd be here, didn't they?
I think they did. Yeah.
At the very least, they said like we'd have more on Lance Archer signing. Like they had like that graphic out. So, and there was no reference to Lance Archer tonight. So, I mean, maybe that's a potential introduction for him. Possible. Chuck Taylor versus Pac. They explained at the beginning here, I thought they said both the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega are not here. But later we learned Matt Jackson was here. Nick Jackson was not.
I don't recall. I didn't catch it.
They had a fine match here. Taylor hit a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker, and then Pac responded with a big elbow into the corner, went through the break. Best friends did their hug on the floor. Taylor caught him out of the corner with the awful waffle. That was the big near fall of the match. Climbed to the top, missed a moonsault, allowing Pac to apply the brutalizer and submit Taylor.
It was an all right match, I thought. A very lengthy match, and I think it was apparent to me that like the crowd really likes Chucky T, but I don't know if they like him enough at this point to warrant a match of this length. To me it was almost like it was a good match, but wasn't really captivating the whole way through the way, let's say some of the other matches on the show were.
Yeah, it was it was fine. Not to me like a blowaway match or anything, but it was fine for the time they had. Trent did a face-off, and then Orange Cassidy got in the middle and stood up to Pac. And then the Lucha Brothers ran out. They attacked Orange Cassidy and Trent, and they ended up getting stomping them down. And Pac, who had joined in here, got on the microphone, said, "Listen up, scumbags," and dubbed himself, Pentagon Jr., and Rey Fenix as the Death Triangle. And they proceeded to hit Orange Cassidy with the package pile driver, double foot stomp off the top, and then posed with Cassidy with Pentagon biting his ear.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd lose it. That would just be not cool.
I like the faction. Like we've talked about the Lucha Bros not really having too much direction, and at least I was personally wondering if it was an inability to cut a promo in English, that a compelling promo in English at least, that was holding them back. And I think putting Pac with these two certainly fixes that problem. As a tandem, I think it opens up like a lot of interesting possibilities in ring. And I think this first feud with like the best friends in Orange Cassidy is something that feels fresh.
Yeah, and clearly, like the Lucha Brothers, like they are staying heels with Pac.
Yeah. I mean, it's not ideal, perhaps, but I think you have maybe a lot of babyface teams right now. Maybe they just simply need heels, and heels that are strong.
Yeah, and I guess feuding with the best friends in Cassidy for now. Shawn Spears and Tully Blanchard, they're continuing to seek out a tag partner. This has been going on for a while on Dark, and they're going to Twitter. So tweet them. What
is this? Like, are they looking for fans to be his tag team partner?
I don't know. DM Shawn Spears, and maybe you'll be on TV with him. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder what's going on with this. I mean, he's just kind of been a little bit off the radar if you're not watching Dark since his match with Cody. It just feels like he and Tully have just not been doing anything. So, okay.
QT Marshall and Jake Hager. Dustin Rhodes and Brandy came out with QT, and then Hager had Santina and Ortiz in his corner. Chants of Jericho's bitch were directed at Hager. He drove QT into the corner, hit him with a power slam. Then Hager went for the Bader bomb, but Marshall got the feet up, handspring Insiguri off the ropes, and then went for a twisting swanton, but the tornado DDT gets blocked. Hager kills him with a lariat, applies the arm triangle, which they definitely emphasized here. The submission wins in Bellator for Hager using the submission, and Marshall submitted at 3 minutes, 18 seconds. And I think Hager, to me, it was much better in this kind of shorter match format than like the 15 minutes we got at the pay-per-view.
Absolutely. I agree. And I like QT Marshall here. At first I just thought he was like Cody's assistant, but a guy of great technique himself. He seems very solid, and he's entertaining to watch in these scenarios, and he made his opponent look good.
This is what Shayna Baszler should have done on Monday.
Face QT Marshall. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. In 3 minutes and 18 seconds. So Hager won't release the arm triangle. So Dustin Rhodes runs in and he gets jumped by Santana and Ortiz. It's 3-on-1. Cody runs in and he's trying to fight with them. There's a chair shot by Ortiz delivered to Cody, so he goes down. Dustin is shielding his brother when Matt Jackson runs out, and this is where they explain Nick is not here. He hits Ortiz and Santana with super kicks, goes for Hager, he gets slammed down, and then Hangman Page stumbles out and is pretending he's drunk. On his graphic, it read, Hangman Page whooped both their asses. And he pretends he's drunk, puts his beer down, but then he's fine. And he fires up on everybody, nails Jake Hager with the buckshot lariat for a huge pop, and then chugs his beer before giving the middle finger to Matt Jackson.
Yeah, which confirms that feud is still going on, and I love that because it's been really hot. I didn't want to just see, these guys put their differences aside for a War Games match or something. I think everybody wants to see like this pissed off Hangman who still has something, a lot of rage against Matt Jackson for whatever reason. I love that. So.
Well, do you think that all these pieces out here are leading to the blood and guts match? Like this is what this segment is leading towards?
It's what it felt like. I don't know if Dustin will be a part of the match or not, but it kind of leads you to think that. Yeah.
Yeah, next week they're going to be announcing the rules of the blood and guts match. I guess they're kind of teasing that there will be some alteration, stating that you might think you know the rules, but you might be surprised by something. It was kind of how they were teeing it up for next week. So in addition to the rules next week, they also announced Cody versus Ortiz coming off the chair shot, the Death Triangle in action, Jurassic Express against The Butcher, The Blade, and MJF, and that's in Salt Lake City next week.
All right.
MJF did a tape promo with Wardlow in the background. This was just such a great promo. He just had line after line here. He went from protege to prodigy. He was the final chapter in Cody's Odyssey, and he's got a lot of ink left for his legacy. He says he will be the greatest world champion in the history of pro wrestling, and he's going to become the number one contender. And he doesn't care who he has to face, if it's Moxley, Omega, Lucha Boring, Jungle Jabroni, or Marco Stunted Growth. He will remain undefeated, and then says it's getting a little hot in here. And he reveals a t-shirt that reads, "I pinned Cody," that he says is embarrassing, obnoxious, regrettable, and it's very distracting. Kind of like a neck tattoo. This guy was just excellent here. This was a tremendous promo.
High quality promo from MJF, and I thought closed up the Cody program here is how it seemed to me. Cut a promo, of course, on the Jurassic Express, which he'll be facing, but also set his sights on Jon Moxley. So I wonder if this is them setting up MJF as the next challenger.
It certainly seems to be that's where he's going for with the title. I think ultimately you do have to come back to Cody and MJF, but maybe they are going in separate directions in the short term, and this will be kind of this overarching feud that we know is not over yet. Mm-hmm. They'll get back to at some point. But they're very much positioning Cody like he is at this low point. Like he got, just completely annihilated by Jake on the microphone, and then gets laid out here in this segment. Like they are certainly priming Cody for, some big comeback or redemption.
Got laid out on Twitter by the entire world for his tattoo.
Oh, has it been ugly?
I've not heard one compliment about it.
Oh. It's one example where it seems a lot of people are on the same page about it. -1.
Yeah.
We do the entrances for the main event, and Moxley comes through the crowd but gets jumped by 3 men in masks who reveal themselves to be Hager, Santana, and Ortiz, and they take Moxley out into the concourse area and just beat the hell out of him. They're hitting him with the garbage can over and over. JR is calling for these men to be arrested, which they would be if this was outside the building. And then Jericho and Guevara are already in the ring with Darby Allin, so they jump Allin. And Moxley is trying to fight back, but Hager applies the arm triangle choke on the floor to put out Moxley. So the match is going to begin as a handicap match with Darby Allin willing to take on the two, and he just fires up on both. He knocks Jericho off the apron, hits Sammy with a shotgun dropkick. Sammy and Allin just have phenomenal chemistry together. They just are perfect together.
They're excellent. Very fast, like crisp. Yeah.
Jericho finally comes in. He applies the walls, and Allen's able to get to the rope and then gets nailed to the floor with a baseball slide dropkick. Went through the commercial. Allin comes back with a dive to the floor, but then they beat down on him some more. Gets the knees up when Jericho goes for the lion salt, and then he hits a destroyer on Guevara, gets a 2 count, then flips Sammy to the floor and hits a coffin drop to the members of the inner circle on the floor. Into the ring, he's left with Guevara, hits a twisting stunner, and hits this unbelievable coffin drop. Like, this was more than halfway across the ring. Jericho runs in to break it up, but misses Darby, who moves out of the way, so Jericho nails Sammy, and then hits a suicide dive to Jericho. But as he's in midair, he gets cracked with the Judas effect, and Allin is rolled into the ring, and Sammy Guevara pins him.
Perfect timing on that Judas effect. I mean, it looked really good on the second angle. Unfortunately, the first angle was almost like...
Looked like a forearm or something, but the replay caught it.
The replay caught it perfectly. It was great timing from both men there.
And a cool finish, like a cool idea.
Yep, very cool finish. I mean, legitimately, or at least like in storyline, knocked Darby out. I love that, there was no kind of like fooling around. He got touched with the Judas effect. The match is done. I thought it was an awesome match. Spotlight here was put entirely on Darby Allin, of course. He made it look like he almost took care of the entire inner circle by himself. They kept stacking the odds onto him. It was 2-on-1 at first, and then the other 3 returned. And it became 5-on-1. And he he survived, I think, as well as, you know, he could have without making the entire inner circle look like total dorks. But, you know, in doing all this, it helps rehab the inner circle, makes them look more threatening than ever, even without the belt.
And then afterwards, we get the post-match angle where they can Moxley comes out and he's returned from the arm triangle submission, but he's outnumbered. So Hager and the inner circle fight him up the ramp, and they end up powerbombing Moxley off the stage through a table, and they all give him the middle finger, and they celebrate on the stage to end the show. So it is Jericho standing tall, and Moxley is not leaving the building standing. At least that's what we were left to believe.
It was actually, I think, a reference to the Shield bomb, and when they decided to fist, they used middle fingers instead of just the fist.
Oh, I didn't even, yeah, that makes, well, that's their version of fisting, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was a really good end to the show. And as we mentioned, this was a swerve, so Jericho at least isn't leaving for 60 days just yet, even though I think everybody believed that he would be. I would say it was a show coming off of Revolution that I thought like there was a lot of big monumental things happening towards like the final weeks of Revolution. I didn't necessarily feel that way with this show. It wasn't like a show that I think you have to come out of saying, wow, I can't believe this happened. But it was still a very solid show and set in motion a lot of chapter ones for new feuds, like with Cody. Jake was a great surprise. And even like, it seems like I hear Moxley and Jericho have something going on continuing.
Yeah, I think that it's this show was more so focused on what had just happened instead of what is about to happen. But I think coming off of the pay-per-view, I think that was the momentum for this show, even though NXT kind of had more things announced in advance for their show. But I think this coming off the pay-per-view, having just something like suddenly you hear, oh, Jake Roberts is on Dynamite. I think that causes a lot of people to want to go watch that if there's flipping back and forth. So I feel that this is the show that would probably have most people's interest of the follow-up to the pay-per-view. And yeah, introducing a lot of new directions coming out of Revolution and where you're going to be going over the next few months.
I'm really excited to like hear more from Jake, you know, and I hope he doesn't just kind of get like relegated to, I don't know, a bit of a non-role.
Asking for teammates on Twitter.
Yeah, like it's really disappointing, I think, what little they've done with Tully and even Arn, you know, in this kind of capacity. So I hope kind of this is like Jake's chance to really relive like the spotlight a little bit and continue to showcase something that is still probably the best part of his game, and that's just his promos.
I just want to mention before we go to feedback, Joel Robinson sent us in because he watches it on Fight TV and just wanted to give us some of the notes of what happened during the picture-in-picture because you and I don't get to watch those. It seems like they've kind of they're doing less now in the picture-in-picture that you're not missing big things. But here are a few of the things that happened throughout the breaks. We had Cody. I think this was right before Jake came out, not afterwards, where he's talking to the crowd. He introduced them to the cameraman, Jamie, and then starts introducing everyone who works there to the crowd. And then the crowd started chanting Dusty. And then they counted down till they were live. After the best friends match, you had Orange Cassidy, or maybe this is before because he got beaten up in the segment. He was doing the lazy fist bumps and then draws the camera to a guy wearing an Oprah t-shirt.
Yes.
And then the other one was Brandy and Dustin throwing signed fake apples to the crowd on behalf of QT Marshall, and JR making slight jabs to some folks. It lists here in the notes.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you.
So that's the Fight TV portion.
Very cool.
All right, let's go to the forum and see what everybody thought. Why don't you go through the poll, Way?
All right. Out of 10, you guys thought this episode of Dynamite ranked 7.41. So lower than previous weeks, but still a pretty respectable score for any TV show. Let's start off with Paul from New Jersey, who says, between the blonde hair and neck tattoo, Cody looks like he still loves Limp Bizkit. Great promo from Jake. I love that Roberts doesn't shout during his promos. He still has it. MJF is amazing. Great promo. AEW has been far superior to NXT lately, in my opinion. I'm happy for Colt. Is he signed?
Yes, he is signed.
So he's signed full time.
Yeah, he's going to be. They said that he's signed, and it looks like he could be doing several roles. I mean, Tony Khan outlined like you could see him wrestle, you could see him do commentary.
Does it mean he won't be taking part in any New Japan or NWA Power or ROH?
I guess that remains to be seen of whether this deal is going to prohibit him from doing that. He was on the most recent NWA tapings, but that was back in January, and he hasn't been advertised yet for the Crockett Cup show. But those will be the natural questions. Like you could see he was figured into New Japan with the team with Toru Yano.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he was going to be over there for the New Japan Cup, and that was, that would have been starting this week. So, yeah, I guess we'll have to find out for sure. But I mean, had these shows not been canceled, Colt would have been over there right now. Adam from the street. I thought that Mox's promo was better than the one he cut after the match at Revolution. Bit of a nitpick, but Jericho waiting for his music to end at the beginning of the show felt a little like Rhea Ripley doing her stomp last week. It was a little awkward with him just standing there, especially with him being in the main event match and playing again. His promo was at the top of the ramp, though, which is a nice callback to a Monday night in 1999. The Inner Circle must be doing great cardio. They're pulling double, sometimes triple duty weekly. Jake was great. Don't care what comes next. He can just be the voice of Damian Abraham every week. Hail Caesar. Hangman continues to be awesome. Any word on if Omega is going to be out for a while? Darby Allin is great. WH probably hates his gear. Which guy had the easier phone call to make to Steve Austin? Kevin Owens so that he could use the stunner, or Moxley so that he could use his skull t-shirt design?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I didn't notice the t-shirt. Did it look a lot like Austin's?
I didn't even notice the t-shirt, to be honest. I guess he had a new design.
We got Adam from Scarborough who says, I really enjoyed this show. It felt like the first episode of a new season. Any chance you could see trios titles ever coming in, or would you prefer a secondary singles title? We've kind of talked about like the idea of titles and a secondary title. I think they could do a secondary title. A trios title, no. Like I think there's one too many titles in a lot of companies, and a trios title is just, I can't see them giving it that much prestige. And how many trios teams, I guess, are there to warrant an entire division and it's a set of belts for that?
Yeah, this show, I don't watch this show and think, man, I wish there was another title. I don't think that's a problem at all.
Mm-hmm. He also says he got some input from his grandfather on the show again. He thinks Cody's tattoo is fake and was surprised to see AJ Roberts.
Yeah, the phenomenal Jake Roberts. Lewis from Long Beach. This is the first episode of Dynamite I watched all the way through in months. I've mostly kept up watching clips and by listening to your podcast, but after watching Revolution, I wanted to try to get back in full time. This was an awesome episode for me. It's such a good feeling to watch a show and actually have anticipation for what's coming next with a crowd that's really into the baby faces and hates the heels. Jake's promo was excellent, and his voice almost going out a few times added to it for me. MJF's promo was superb, and the line about a neck tattoo at the end was perfect. Despite the news from Matt Hardy earlier in the day, him not showing up on this episode didn't take away from it in the least. Do you have any idea of who Jake's protege could be that he'll introduce, I assume in a few weeks, 8 out of 10 show?
I mean, like, we've kind of thrown the names out there. Could it be Jeff Cobb? Could it be... Well, I guess Jeff Cobb's not a full-time guy at the moment. Yeah, I don't know. Any other suggestions?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of guys that you would have attached to Jake. It's certainly a great way to introduce someone. But man, I guess Brody Lee you throw into there.
Yeah,
that would be another option.
Your turn or my turn?
Alexander.
Mine,
okay, you go.
We go to Alex from Portland who says easily AEW's weakest show. But it was pretty entertaining. I wouldn't call it the weakest AEW show. Maybe like of recent months or recent weeks, perhaps. Yeah,
they hit that low at the end of the year, the December 18th show, and I would say from there, that was also their turnaround when they came back in January.
Seeing the main event made me realize AEW so far haven't booked any handicap matches, so seeing how it was handled tonight was great. Death Triangle sounds cool, but you know what would be cooler? The Lucha Bastards. That would be cooler.
Yeah, but they'd have to censor it every time they cut a promo.
Oh. They're allowed to say bastard, aren't they? They don't censor that.
Yeah, I guess Lucha Bastards might make it through, and we know that Sucks Ass is okay.
For the 3 odd men out that weren't a part of a trio, they're going to work so well together. Speaking of working well, Guevara and Allin are so smooth together. I could see a future a few years off where these two are having a match with each other in the main event. Lastly, one of my pet peeves with modern pro wrestling is when you can't tell the difference between arenas week after week. Between Moxley entering through the crowd and the backstage brawls, it's fantastic to see parts of the arenas to give them more personality and to make the episode stand out just that much more.
Yeah, we're getting a tour of all the concourse areas across America.
Do you have a favorite?
The first Inner Circle concourse brawl, wherever that was, the one that had the
private box.
The one where they spilled out of the private box and then went into the concession area.
Yeah, that was a great one. Yep.
Yeah, that was a wonderful concourse. Jay from Colorado, he was at the show live. He said he had a fantastic time. The crowd was pumped in the beginning, and I think just about everyone was expecting some more movement on the Dark Order front and at least some sort of news about Lance Archer. While people were disappointed that neither came to any sort of fruition, it was still a fun show. Jericho is the greatest of all time, hands down. He knows how to work a crowd like no other and had everyone eating out of the palm of his hand. For some reason or another, QT Marshall, Brandy, and Dustin threw apples into the crowd. There were some AEW dark matches filmed prior to everything, which I won't spoil here, but after the show we got 3 extra dark matches, including Jimmy Havoc against a local talent from Rocky Mountain Pro, which ended with Luther attacking Jimmy Havoc. Hikaru Shida versus another local talent from Rocky Mountain Pro, whose gimmick was basically a zombie, but it was a decent match. Then we got Brandon Cutler and Sonny Kiss against Private Party. One thing I'd like to end on, I love AEW, and I love professional wrestling. While most of the crowd tonight was awesome and totally respectful, I was extremely disappointed by the transphobic comments during Nyla Rose's video package and the handful of homophobic comments I heard during Sonny Kiss's match. While it was a small minority of the crowd, I feel like we still need to do better. 8 out of 10. Edit, just got out of my car and it was broken into. 7 out of 10 show.
Oh, man.
Oh, that's awful. That's terrible. Those chants are just disgusting. It's just horrible that stuff happens.
Terrible, yeah. If it happens, like, I know sometimes I don't know. I love it when, like, people call this shit out. Like, when people film these people and just blast them on the internet. I mean, it's probably very, I don't know. It can go overboard, but shit, like, we gotta discourage shit like that. That's terrible. By the way, QT Marshall's thing is Apple, so that's why they're throwing. And yeah, Jimmy Havoc and Luther are doing something. I thought, like, they were going to pair them together as part of, like, sort of like a new Nightmare Collective. But
more darkness.
I mean, they have a lot of dark characters.
Yeah, they do.
We go to Raymond from Sacramento, California, who says, a few weeks ago, I talked about Cody and his love for wrestling and the company he's part of. Tonight, he showed once again how smart he is. Depending on the circles you exist in, Cody's choice of tattoo and or placement is all that anyone can talk about. On this episode of Dynamite, he came out there to an incredible babyface reaction, and instead of making his promo about the reaction to his new ink, they went in a completely new direction with Jake the Snake Roberts surprising everyone and him cutting a legendary promo on Cody that changed the conversation to Cody being a Caesar-like character that he has no respect for.
Yeah, I don't know how that
intentional. Like, I don't think Cody came out here expecting, like, to have to answer for his tattoo.
That would have been the most awkward promo ever if, okay, let's talk about my tattoo. These are my decisions behind it. I mean, I don't think he would be that self-indulgent for an entire promo segment to address his tattoo, which is, like, in the grand scheme of things, it's a pretty small thing.
Yeah.
Noah from Vaughn, I can definitely see why people may not have liked this show as much as previous editions of Dynamite due to the lack of incredible in-ring, but I thought it was still a pretty good show with an absolutely amazing crowd. Nothing dragged, and the show has a clear direction coming out of the pay-per-view. The Jake Roberts appearance was phenomenal. One thing that I noticed was that I'm pretty sure this was the first AEW show not to feature any of the Elite in a match. Darby Allin continues to show why he will be a main event star for years to come. He was fantastic in the main event. 8 out of 10 show.
Finally, we go to Chris, who says, this has been an absolutely fantastic episode of Dynamite. I thought Jake's promo was top notch. We got some great new angles coming out of Revolution. Everything felt fresh, and yet I can't help but feel cheated that they pushed back the Exalted One. I could have sworn they said he'd be here tonight, so pushing it back frustrates me more than it should. Either way,
they never said he was going to be here tonight.
I think they said imminently, but they never explicitly said tonight.
Yeah, I didn't think that was nothing that I think people were necessarily expecting. Yeah, so that is going to bring an end to Rewind-A-Dynamite, a interesting episode of Dynamite coming out of this and the many different directions. I mean, they are building up several surprises now between the Exalted One, whoever Jake's client is, and those seem to be kind of in intriguing areas of where they can go, and some interesting candidates as well that could fill those spots.
Yeah, I mean, setting up the Jake mystery, I feel like, means I would have to think that the other mystery of the Exalted One will be solved shortly. So maybe next week, maybe not.
Yes. Well, that's going to bid us farewell. We are going to be back Thursday, everybody, 3 p.m. Eastern time for the Cafe Hangout. Joining us in studio once again, Evan Husney, who is the executive producer, the co-executive producer of Dark Side of the Ring. So we will chat all about that series and the second season that they just announced will be coming back March the 24th, and how they arrived at some of the subjects that they have on tap for season 2. So also look forward to taking your phone calls. We will be looking ahead to Elimination Chamber this Sunday. We'll go through the ratings, and we'll also share our thoughts on NXT from Wednesday night as well, which featured 2 steel cage matches.
Ooh.
2 cage matches, then 2 chamber matches on Sunday. Everything in doubles.
Randy Orton just tweeted out a video of him RKOing Jake Roberts.
Well, we know if he's a Nielsen family, then we know where he was counted for on Wednesday night.
Mm-hmm.
That would make Randy Orton and Baron Corbin the 2 examples of guys tweeting about Dynamite as it's airing that they must have been watching Dynamite.
Seriously, I mean, if you're Randy Orton, what style of wrestling do you think would align more to your taste, or at least what style of storytelling? I mean, NXT's great too, but the Cody stuff is exactly up Orton's alley.
Well, look, I mean, he's involved in the hottest angle right now in WWE, and it's such a departure from what he's been doing for years at this point. I mean, it's there is no doubt he must have got an incredible offer staying with WWE, and I think he was very smart about how he went about negotiating. But if he was in AEW, I mean, he would be involved in, he'd be right in the top angle.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. We'll chat more on the Hangout on Thursday. So we'll chat with you all then. In the meantime, you can go check out postwrestling.com and postwrestlingcafe.com. Good night.